Okay, so tonight, what we're going to do, which was I had in mind at the beginning, is to go now to the Tikunim themselves. Remember that the Tikunei HaZohar consider Rushim on the first word, Bereshis, and what we've been learning up to now is the Hakdam, is the introduction. I don't want to abandon it, but I want to learn some of the Tikunim. If we have time the same evening, we'll go back to the Hakdama, but at the moment I want to start with the first Tikkun. And remember that the Tikkunim will all be Perushim on the word Bereshis. So the first one is Bereshis. So we're going to learn Bereshis is Beit Reshis. The Tikkunim will take the word Bereshis and break it up into components and letters and different words. So a magical word, the word Bereshis, has very many possible variations. So the very first Perush takes the Bereshis, which is a Beit and Reshis. That is to say that the Beit is the first. The Beit is the beginning. The Tikkunim say Beit Bereshis. Zer hashar laHashem tzadikim yivaro. This is the gate laHashem of the Almighty, for the Almighty, to the Almighty. Tzadikim will come through that. In other words, the Beit, the letter Beit, is the Shah, the gate to which we come to Hashem. At least Tzadikim are able to come to Hashem. And the Beit is written with a capital B, a large B, and that is Bina, which is called Bai. So remember last week we talked about Chochmah and Bina, right? Remember we had the three first Sfirot. Keter is hidden, we can't at the moment talk about Keter. Then we have Chochmah, and then we have Bina. And we said that Chochmah we described as undifferentiated wisdom. That's to say, it's something that we have no tefisa, we can't grasp. I would say simply because it's above language, and since it's hard in language, we can't talk about it because language can only talk about something which has language, and something which is above language it can't be talked about. So we can only get to it through Bina. So the Bina, which is the third of the sphere, which relates to the left-hand side, which is the female aspect, is the first of the female line. We'll see that the female line has three spheres: Bina, Gvor, and Hod, right? And Bina is the highest, that's the highest of the female aspect. And that is the gate through which the gate LaHashem, to Hashem, of Hashem. And the word Bina, so here he says that the Beit, it also means house. And Bina also has the concept of a house, and it also comes from a root which means two things. It means to build. It note Bina is to build, and it means Bain, which is to differentiate, right? You learn Bain Zev, Bain Zeh. So because building is done with building blocks, right? And blocks are different. You take one here and you take one there and you build it. So the Beit thing, and also the Beit is the Bereshis. Bereshis begins with a Beit, right? And Bereshis is the creation of the three lower worlds, which are the whole story of Bereshis. And Maaseh Bereshis is the three lower worlds, which start with the three lower worlds of Bria, the world of Bria, we'd say creation, and Yitzir, which we say is formation, and Nasir is making. So the Torah begins with the building of a house which contains these lower worlds. As it brings the posuk, Zeh Hashalashit Hashem Tzadikim Yivavo. This is the gate of the Almighty. That could mean of the Almighty, but I think it would be more understandable to translate it. This is the gate to the Almighty, because the Lashon Lo also means to. This is the gate through which we can approach the Almighty. Who are we who can approach it? Those who are tzaddikim, who are righteous. Da'ihu Tara, the tzaddika isla reshula ala taman. Those are the tzaddikim who have the reshut, they have permission to come. You can't go through that gate unless you have permission. And he says, Delav inun tzaddika, and those who are not tzaddikim, it's dachim itaman, they're pushed away from that, they're pushed away. So Parish brings the Gemara of Alexander the Great, Alexander Mukdan, who, the Gemara in some entities, who came to the gate of Gan Eden. He's a great warrior, of course, Alexander the Great. He traveled to conquer the whole world up to, we learned the other day, up to India, right? And he came to the, what? Northern India, right? He came to the gate of Gan Eden, and he lifted up his voice, the Gemara says, open the gate for me. And Hashivu, they answered him, Zeh Hasha, this is the Shah, this is the gate to Hashem, to Lo Yavovo Rak Tzadikim. Only Tzadikim can come through it. So he was pushed away. So now, the Tikkun goes into a description of the, talks about the vision of Yecheskel. Why does it talk about the vision of Yecheskel? Because I believe that the vision of Yecheskel, he saw the very highest level of the world of prayer. He was able in his vision to see, or he had a nevuah, prophecy of the very highest level of prayer, but he didn't go above that. He didn't go into the world of Atzilus, which is higher than that. So therefore, the vision of Yecheskel is really the main place I would say in Tanakh that we have a description of the very highest level of the world of prayer. So it's appropriate that since that's the debate, that's the entrance. So therefore, the Tikunei talk about it. So they're talking about the Shah, the gate. Ba, in that, Ushimin, Umitsoyovin, Umitchakakin, Diuknin, Te'ilan, Vatat. On that gate is, we use three languages. Ushimin, Ushima is registered, but we use it usually as it means it's an imprint. It's an imprint, an impression, right? Something, we say that the light comes to a certain place in the vessel, it goes away, but it leaves an impression behind it, right? So that on that gate there is an impression, that's the first thing. Umutsoyovim, and that is a Sure as a picture. Sure as a picture. There are pictures. And Mitchachatin is there, is an engraved. So really I would say those are three levels going, each one is deeper than the other, right? A Rishima, an impression is quite a light thing, right? You have to have an impression. And then you have a Tzio, which is a picture. And then you have mitchachakim, which is an engraving. That's what it goes even deeper. So in there we have these three levels: diuknin, diilin, utatin. So the word diuknin, an interesting word. It's not a Hebrew word or an Aramaic word. I think it's a Greek word, actually. Diuknin, and sometimes in Greek it's used as a statue. But I think here it's like a likeness or a picture. It's a likeness. So we have an impression and a picture and engraving of the likeness of the higher and lower world. And it says...
So physical representation?
Yeah. I wouldn't say, well, that's very interesting.
Well, when I hear the word engraving...
Yeah, well, you see, I mean, that's very interesting because we're now going to see that on what he saw, is he saw the three creatures and the man. They're sometimes called the four creatures or the three creatures and the man. And so we're going to see all that. So since it's described as an eagle and a bull, a lion, an eagle, and a bull, and a man, so it would suggest that there must be some kind of physical impression, because otherwise how can he say it's a man or an eagle or a lion or a bull? So I would say yes, but whether, how,
or an interpretation.
How you see, we're in the word of Bria. Okay, so we'll have to try to understand a little bit since you asked that. The three worlds of Bria, Yetzirah, and Asiya are called Niftalim. They're separate from the Almighty. The Almighty comes through in this. His presence is known in it, but they're not divine in themselves. And they're usually called Yesh, something, right? We say the Almighty makes Yesh Mi'ain and Bria, so the world of Bria is Yesh, it's something, right? As opposed to nothing. Nothing is also something, but we don't know what it is, so we say nothing, right? So Bria, although Bria is, we have no idea what that is. We live in the lowest world, we live in the lowest rung of the lowest world, which is physical. The world above us, Yetzirah, they talk about is the world of angels, right? It's a very spiritual world. And Bria, which is above that, we don't know what it is. So it has, in an absolute spiritual sense, which is above what we're able to grasp, certain things which are spiritual. There's a spiritual representation which we in the lower physical world see as a cup or an animal or a lion. So there are these things up. What they are, we don't know because we're not zoche to see that. But that's what Yecheskel said. So he says, the Tikunim say, "Va v'shimin mitzorin u'machakim diuknin de'ilim v'tati." There are registered impressions, pictures, and engravings of higher and lower worlds. And the Mepharsh says, interestingly, he says, for this reason, it's Syrian, which means it's drawn, that Nakuda of Bina, the 10 spheres correspond to the 10 Nakudat vowels, right? Including one which is not which is no vowel. But Bina is the vowel of Tsira, right? So Tsira is related to the word of Tsior, of a drawing or a picture. So Bina suggests picture. And he continues, and he says, Rashima, so he says, first of all, there is a Rashima. He says, Tsior da Adam Mishimatama. There is there an impression of man, and this is Demus Adam. This is demus, which means likeness, right? We know in Bereshit, so the Almighty says, let us make man demus. So the word demus is like a likeness, and it's already something you can grasp. So we're already in the world of something which has some kind of tree, so we can get hold of it in some way. So it says, he says, so there we have an image of a picture, I shouldn't say an image, but saw of a man. He said, Tsior. Tsior is also related to the word, but Tsior is to draw, or to make a picture of. But we were learning the other day, Tsior is also a very key word. It's related to the word of Surah. So it's also like the picture of the man is registered there. And that is, he calls that demus Adam. Of course, it's not a man. It's not a man as we know it, but it's like the quality of a man. And there they have also a Rishima of a lion, which is on his right side. And we have the Rishima, the impression of an ox, bull or an ox, which is on the left side. And the Rishima of a eagle, which is in the middle. A lion, an ox, or bull, and an eagle. These three chayot must be that they have very special qualities, right? The lion, we know, is the king of the animal world, and the eagle soars in the Shemayim, and the ox is like represents, I believe, that stability and strength, right? So these, and the lion is on the right side, which is the male aspect. The ox is on the left side, and the eagle is in the middle. Rosa de Mira and the sword of the matter, the demus Panehem, it says in the vision of Yecheskel, demus Panehem, the likeness of their faces was the face of a man and the face of a light on all four of them, etc. In other words, each one of the chayot that he saw had all four aspects, essentially, in its face, right? This is going to be very important because remember, we're right at the beginning. This is the first thing, Bereshit. So it's telling us something about the beginning of everything, that we're able to understand. So he says that there was the face of a man and the face of a lion on the right, of all four of them. The kol chayasa arba anche. For every chayot, which is chayot, every living being, these four living beings, they had four faces. These are the four letters of the holy name Yud-Kei Vav-Kei, which was writing in order. So we know that the divine name Yud-Kei Vav-Kei, the source of this divine name is in the higher world. It's Tzilus. That's how the Almighty reveals himself. We can never have any understanding or knowledge or comprehension of the essential nature of the divine, only in as much as what he reveals himself to us, right? And he reveals himself in the world of Atzilus in the divine name Yud-Kei Vav-Kei. So now, although the revelation where that name appears is in the higher world of Atzilus, so what I believe that he's telling us now through the Nebuah of Yecheskel is that those four letters are represented in the four faces, the four aspects of the chayot, the living creatures that Yecheskel saw, which is the very highest point, place of relations. Because we know that through those four letters and the combinations of all the letters comes everything, right? So these four faces represent the four letters of the divine name. And the light shines through. Light, what we call light, is the only word that we have which describes what comes from the higher source, right? It's light. It's light because for us light is the most abstract thing that we know of. So light comes through these four letters. Okay? And so they are the sod, the four creatures which are the chariot are the sod of the four letters of the divine name. Good. Eilen arba'atan d'shma d'kitchabu hu d'nahiben malka d'kula hu kavin da'ad. Now the king of all these creatures, I don't like the word creatures, usually translated to all these living beings, is man. Okay? And man, and that's Yud K Vav K. Now, he spells out for us, remember, he spells the divine name as, remember that the divine name now has, the Yud K Vav K, has what are called miluim. You can complete it because since everything comes from the letters of the divine name, so it has to have multiplicity in it, right? It's not just four letters. It's four letters, and you can have various combinations, an infinite number of combinations. So one of the ways, one of the principal ways we see is of the divine name is called miluim. What's miluim means? It means it expands. It is completed. In other words, I have the letter Yud. So the letter Yud could be one symbol, right? Or I could say the letter Yud itself is spelled out as Yud Vav Dalet, right? So therefore, the letter Yud in its miluim is either, you could say, the Yud Vav Dalet, or some people say it's the Vav Dalet which is added to the Yud. So therefore, I can now spell out any word that exists. I can spell it out, and each letter will itself be spelled out. Now, of course, I can have enormous variations of this, but this is the basic. So now the Yud K Vav K, the divine name, for the purpose of the Kabbalah, is spelled out in four different ways. The Yud Vav Dalet is always spelled out the same way. That's how you spell Yud Vav Dalet. That consists of 20, right? In number 20. Yud is 10, Vav is 6, and Dalet is 4, so that's 20. So then I have the next letter I have is Vav, Yud Hey, so now I have a Hey. So I can spell a Hey in one of three ways. I can spell a Hey as Hey Yud, or I can spell a Hey as Hey Hey, or I can spell a Hey as Hey Aleph, okay? Three different ways of spelling. So then I have a Vav. I can spell a Vav as Vav Yud Vav, or I can spell a Vav as Vav Aleph Vav, or I can spell Vav as Vav Vav. Then I have Hey again. Okay. So now I will have, through these various ways of spelling out the name, we have four principal divine names, which we've learned in other places in the lesson, but here the Tikkunim are bringing in one aspect of it. So the highest one is called the name of Av, which is Aleph Base, which is 72, and the next one under that is Sag, which is 63. The third one is called Ma, Mahei, because that's 45. And the fourth one is Bin, which is Beit Nun, which is 52. So now here is the man, Malkut Kulahu Chavim, the king of all these Chayot, is man, Adam, and that is spelled Yud Vav Dalet, K, which is really Hey Aleph, Vav, which is Vav Aleph Vav, and again Hey Aleph. So that comes to 45. That is the name Ma. That is the third name, and that is the name. That is the name of which we mostly have there, what's called a tikkun of the world of Atzilus. That's like the world above. It's not the highest world, it's not the second highest world, it's the third world which is above the world of which we're in. And that is the geometry of Adam, because Adam is also 45. Man, right? It's 45. So the world of Ma, the divine name of Ma, is the name Adam. That's what he says. So the king of all of them is Adam, which is a Yud Kei Vav Kei spelled in that particular way. And to Salik the Cheshbon Chad, because it comes to one, it's like, I shall explain this in a moment. It includes everything, because it's going to say now, he said, Demus Adam da Shchinta Isha Vihudiyuk, that the Demus, the likeness of Adam, is the Shechina, the Holy Shechina, and that is its image. So what does this mean? So the four faces of the four chayot of the chariot, which is what Yecheskel saw, the face of the lion, the face of the ox, the face of the eagle, the face of the man. And nevertheless, the face of the man, the source of the man, is engraved on all the four chayot, because, and in all of them has a likeness of a man. So that's why it says the man is the king of all of them. The man is the king of all of them because Malchus, which is the kingship, is man. When the Almighty brings the world into creation, the essence of creation is man. The whole world is created for man, right? Everything here, the man is the fulfillment of the creation. It's the last, he and the female. We are the last of the creation and the fulfillment of the creation, and they contain, really the whole of creation is contained. Now, therefore the form of man is engraved on everything. It includes everything, because everything is included in man. And this is the Shechina Kedusha. Now there's going to be a certain contradiction here, which we'll have to explain. The Shechina is the female aspect, right? We've said all along that the Shechina represents the female aspect. And the Shechina is the last letter, the Hey of the divine name, which is the Nukva, the female, in the terms of the Partsufim and of the spheres. The Yud is the highest. Let's say that represents, you could say it represents Abba. They are high. The Kutz of the Yud, but it represents Chokmah. The second Hey represents Bina. The third letter, which is the Vav, represents Zah in the Partsufim, which is the young man, right? And the fourth, the last, the Hey, is the Nukva, which is the female account, the female aspect, which is called Nukva. It's also called Malchus. And everything is revealed in that. in the higher worlds, it all comes. The last contains, it's rather interesting. I was thinking the last contains everything. The first contains the seed of everything. Everything is contained in the highest revelation, or the highest aspect, contains the seeds of everything. Right? Nothing comes out of nothing. So everything comes from a higher source. And as we go down, so it comes, it takes greater form as it comes from the seed. It becomes more revealed, etc., etc. And it's garbed and it comes down. So in one aspect, the highest contains everything in the seed aspect. But the lowest also contains everything, because the lowest is like the vessel that everything above it drops into and contains everything. So therefore, the second hail, the last hail of the divine name, which is Malchus, also contains everything that came before it and went above it. So Adam, although in a sense Adam is the male aspect, but it's also here the female aspect, the last hail, because it contains everything else. So that's what he's telling us here. So now he says, so now the Tikunim will now go into Perush from Shir Hashir, some verses from Shir Hashir. And it's telling us about the relationship between the Shechina and the Kodesh Baruch. And really now let's go back, remember the Hakdama, what we learned in the introduction. That was what we've been learning about the relationship between the Shechina and the Kodesh Baruch Hu, and exile, and how the tzaddikim are never exiled from the Kodesh Baruch Hu because the Shechina is always there with them. And there's the maskilim, right? That we're learning about the maskilim. So now the first tikkun is also going to move into that direction, because it's going to bring psukim from Shir Hashir. So it says that this likeness that we've learned, Ihu Chotem, this is the seal, this is his seal. So he says, for Allah Atman, he says on that, that's what we say in Shir Hashirim. Remember, Shir Hashirim is a dialogue between the Kodesh, the Shechina and the Kodesh Baruch, so to speak. This is Simni Kachotim Alivecha. So the Shechina here is talking. It's the Shir Hashirim moves, as I said, it's a dialogue. So here the Shechina is talking to the Zah, if you like, about Malchus. Is talking to Zah, her husband, and she's saying, put me as a seal on your heart. Okay? Put me, Simani, put me kachotim alibecha. So, what is that? So it explains, Dahachi amat shchinta, this is what the Shechina says, Afal gav da'ant tistalek le'ila, even though you're going away, you're leaving us, you're going higher, you're returning, right? At the time when we sin and we go into exile, in one respect, the male aspect, the Zah, goes back up to its higher source, it leaves us. But the Shechina is still below. So she says to him, even though you're going away above, Dioknecha lo itade mine la'olam. Your likeness, your diukan, your presence, in a sense, will not be lost from us forever. Kahahu chotem, like this seal, Yabahu atad itabek be Ushima mare chutme. Because a seal, I put a seal, right? I put a seal on a document. And I put my seal back in my safe or my briefcase with it. But the impression of the seal hasn't gone away. The impression of the seal is always there. So that the Shechina is saying to the Kodesh Baruch Hu, even though you're going away and leaving us, the seal will still be there. Even though you're going away above, your diuk and your picture, your seal, let's say, will not go away from so like this seal which you put on a place, so there has the impression of the master, the owner of the seal, the impression is there forever. Lo itade mina diukna de chutma ishtamidaba. So he says, and it will never go away. It will always still be there, the seal. Let me just have a look a little bit here. It says, your chotem will always be there. Your seal, the seal will always be there. But it's very interesting. The Shekhinah is not saying that the seal of the Almighty will be on us. He says, please put our seal. Please put our seal will be on you. He says like this. He says, Ki hai gavni alma Knesset Yisrael. In this way, the Knesset Yisrael says to the Almighty, Simani kechotem alebecha. Put us as on. That means that the Almighty will always have a remembrance of us. Our seal, right? The seal of Knesset Yisrael, the seal of the Jewish Knesset Yisrael, which is another talks about the Shekhinah, as a concept that we consist of a whole and a part, right? Everyone is an individual, but at the same time, we're all part of a greater unity. The whole is greater than the sum of the parts. So the unity of the Jewish people throughout the generations and throughout everything that happens and all our wanderings, there is a unity of the Jewish people, and that's called Knesset Yisrael. And we say that Knesset Yisrael, put that as a seal on your heart, so to speak. It said, and what is that like? Kamishima, what's a seal against the heart? That's tefillin, right? So he says, Kamishima the tefillin, diyad de'inan the kabbalah, because the seal of the tefillin of the yad is opposite the heart. It's like it's been registered on the heart. That would be one of the things that tefillin does for us, because tefillin contains parshas from the Torah, right? And it's a reshima of the Torah, which comes from a higher world. So when we put tefillin on the yad, really, the yad has two aspects. It has the strength, right, of the yad that he brought us out of Egypt, but it's also against the heart. So that's what we say in the meditation that we say before we put tefillin on. Those who say that there is that it's like a reshima. It's impression on our heart. So that's what we ask the Kodesh Baruch to do. And then there's another. It talks about the other tefillin, the reshima tefillin yad in the kabbalah, kachotem al zerecha ketefillin dereish. Now, the inan tilin wutzu in the cold section. So it's interesting when we talk about the tefillin of yad, of the rosh, of the head, we think of the tefillin here. In the head, there's a very interesting law. The Gemara in Yochai says that the Almighty, Hashem owes the Amoyutim, right? The Almighty gives power to his people. And the Gemara in Yochai says, this is the tefillin below. The tefillin below, the tefillin in the head. That's power to the people. The Goyim see us with the tefillin, and they have fear. So that gives us power. And the Rona Gaon says, it doesn't say tefillin shel rosh, the tefillin of the head. He says tefillin borosh, the tefillin in the head. It's talking about the internal tefillin. When we have in our head the internal awareness and consciousness of the Almighty and whatever all that entails, so that the Goyim see that in the faith. That's our oaths, our power, the tefillin borosh. So we would have thought that the tefillin barosh is principally talking about the tefillin in the mouth. But here, the tikkunim give another aspect of the tefillin barosh. There's another aspect of the tefillin barosh, which is very, of course, is about the whole construct, right? What's the thing about the tefillin barosh? Not just that we have the tefillin here, but that we have the straps. The straps come down to the side of the body and they're all the way down, right down to below the waist. So that's very much like the spheros, right? They come from the higher level of Keter, and then they come down on the right-hand side and the left-hand side. So that's what he says here. And this is like the tefillin of the during the arm against the heart, and kachotem al zarecha, and it's like a seal on your shoulders. The tefillin deresha, because the tefillin of the head, the in and talian utsuin the kol sitting, from them come straps. They come down to all sides. The head represents Keter, the highest aspect up here. More, right? That's very high. That's all hidden. That's the source of intellectual power and understanding. But it doesn't stay up there. It comes down through straps, and it comes down right through the whole and descends right through the whole body. So it says, as it says, aliba udavua, on your heart and on your side, your shoulders. Ubehen inun shimin de inun imutikuchu. And in those are registered that is your people. That is, we are the people of the Kodesh Baruch Hu. So the tefillin we learned the other day that tefillin is a sign, is an oath, right? Yochai, we talked about the signs, right? We said about we have the sign of the Bris Milah and the sign of Shabbos and the sign of Tefillin. So there's a difference. The sign of the Bris Milah is different from the sign, the oath of the Bris Milah and the sign of Shabbos are both signs of Yetziat Mitzrayim, coming out of Egypt. Shabbos, when we make Kiddush, we say Zecher Yetziat Mitzrayim, right? And Tefillin, so, and the Bris Milah also, because it has to do with the blood and coming out of Egypt. But Tefillin is different. So what is it says, so the Bris Milah is the chotem, also is like the seal of the Kodesh Baruch Hu. So an oath sign is like the seal of the Kodesh Baruch Hu. And we have the tefillin, so that's like the seal of the Kodesh Baruch Hu. But in Shir Hashem we say even in the other way, that we ask, because it says in the Gemara Brachos, right, that the Kodesh Baruch Hu has tefillin, or we don't understand what that means, and what are the verses in the tefillin talk about how Israel is one. So we ask that the Kodesh Baruch Hu, we should be, so to speak, like your tefillin, so that we'll always with you, we'll always remember us, even in exile, you'll always remember us. Now, the Tikunei in this first Tikkun, which is some more verses from these verses in Shir Hashem. Just a moment. So it says, Simeni kechotem al libecha, put me as a seal upon your heart, Kechotem al zorecha, like a seal upon your arms. Ki aza kamavis ahava. For love is strong like death. Strong till the death is my love. That's how they translate. So now the Tikkunim is going now to mafarish these verses. It says, for strong like death is love. Takifi ihu apishusha de kitchabichu ushvintem Yisrael kaparishu de neshamta barucha v'nafsha migufa. For the separation of the Kodesh Baruch Hu and his Shekhinah from Yisrael is so powerful, like the separation of the neshama and the ruach and the nefesh from the guf. When we're separated from the Kodesh Baruch Hu, it's like the spiritual aspect leaves the body. Because the Kodesh Baruch Hu and the Shekhinah represents our spiritual aspect, and we have to cling to it to have. If we lose that, we lose all spiritual aspect. But two, ki aza kamavas ahava, and it says that again that love is as strong as death. Ki Yisrael michtin shema de kiddush, because the Israel unite the name of the Kodesh Baruch Hu with love. Aminin habocher ba'amo Yisrael ba'ahava. That's why he says he chose his people Yisrael in love. That the connection between us and the Kodesh Baruch Hu is a connection of love. It's a connection of love. Kashe kushal kina, the verses continue that as hard as the grave is your kina, zealousness, vengeance. Let's talk about the Kodesh Baruch Hu says, for the Kodesh Baruch Hu, when he brings us from exile, he does that with vengeance, with power. It's not just, while they blow the trumpet and everyone comes up and it's all flowers. There is, as we talked about this afternoon, there is an element of vengeance on the nations that have treated us so badly during the years of exile. And we explained that it's not necessarily so. The Almighty could just say, bring us up right back to Eretz Yisrael and everything would turn out with a revelation of the divine. But there must be an aspect of vengeance on evildoers. It's part of the balance of the world, that the evil has to be destroyed. It has to, Rabbi Gold has talked about this before. The Egyptians were drowned in the Yam Suf, in the Red Sea, because you have to see that evil is destroyed and wiped out and punished. It's necessary for that to be a balance, for that balance to happen. So that will be at the time when the Almighty brings us from exile. He will bring with power, and he will bring with vengeance and power and kina and noko, ubal chama, and with force of anger. And that's the verses. The verses say, Wishfei esh, that there flashes of fire. Bahu Zimna at that time, Yitaya smaller, Vashalhuvim delay, that the left hand side, right, which is the side of Din, will awaken with all its flame. Di'inan Rashpe Eshel Heves Yudke. That's the divine, two letters of the divine name, the Yudke. They will all burn and fire. By Yokod Kama Hilchin the Batei Avodah, and he will burn up the palaces of idol worship, will all be burnt up at that time. the Zohar is very strong that of course I'm not giving a historical interpretation of it, but we must remember that that was a time, this was written at the time of the terrible persecution of the Romans after the destruction of the Second Temple. There was a terrible, terrible persecution, as we've all witnessed also in our lives or before our lives. So therefore, we are aware that at the time of the redemption, when the Almighty brings us back, so there will be a destruction of all these forces of evil, and the palaces of the Avodah will be destroyed, and the Almighty will take vengeance on Amalek, right? And he will particularly Amalek, because Amalek represents perhaps more than anything else, like the epitome of the enemy and the engine, right? And he would take his zealous on the comma on Amalek, which he took a vow. You know, there's a pasuk in Shemos. He says, "Vayomer ki yad al kes yud ke," and that they always say that means that the name is not complete. The divine name cannot be complete until evil is destroyed from the world. We do not see the full revelation of the divine name in all its force and all its power until the enemy and the force of evil is totally destroyed. So now, just finishing up now. So now this first tikkun has gone into all kinds of wonderful things, right? From starting with basic explaining of the gracious, and that's the beginning, and then it comes back to the theme of the relationship between the Kodesh Baruch Hu and us and the Jewish people, and it finishes like this. It says, "For Yisrael Amin," and Yisrael say, "Ribono Olam, Master of the universe, even though we are in exile, far away from you, please put our seal on your heart." Right? We are, wherever we are, all these crazy places in the world where the Jews are in exile, we say to them, put our seal on your heart. Not put your seal on our heart, yes, of course, but also please put our seal. We've asked him to put our seal on his heart. Below, and he says, below Yitade Minam, and excuse me, do not go away from us. Do not part from us. Your Tikunei, your image, the Ihu Havigila, because that's your image, that's your Shechina, Shechina, that's your Shechina, the Begine Ant Havi Dachilam Begulusa. And because of that, you will remember us when we're in exile, because we are engraved in this, so to speak, on his heart. For the seal of the Kodesh Baruch Hu is his Shechina, is the divine presence. And it includes voracious bar, in the beginning he created. Beit, that's Ihu Vada, that's certainly the beginning, that's the opening of the Torah. Beit, they're voracious. Beit is the Beit of Bina, is the understanding. Ihu Vada Otse HaKol, and the Beit is the Otse, is the storehouse of everything. Everything is in it. Because the Beit is like a house, right? It contains everything. And also we said the Beit is really like the Malchus, and it contains everything in it. And therefore he says, Beit was the beginning, which is like the Almighty's house where everything is stored. That's the beginning of everything. And that's why it says, Yiras Hashem, Otzro, fear of Hashem. Now it's very interesting because Yiras is also the same in the word voracious. We also will see about this. Yira is the same thing. The faith in Yiras Hashem is his storehouse, and the Yiras Hashem brings us to Bina, which is the Shatz Hashem, for which the Tzaddik can become Yas Hashem. Good time. That's a good time.
Quite the most wonderful use of
Oh,
Thank you.
thank you. What?
It's all talking community. Right? Goddess.
Goddess, right. It's all from Goddess. It's all in Goddess. That's the whole theme. I think that's the theme of the whole of the Tikkun. Perhaps the whole theme of the Zohar is that it's a book about Goddess and about Geula, right? Well, that's the whole story of the Jewish people. It's the whole story of the Jewish people and the creation and the Maaseh Bereshis is all about Golos. We start up, we get kicked out of Gan Eden, we go into Golos, and we come back at the end. But then we get back to Geula. So we are saying God are living at the time of Geula, the beginning of Geula, and that's the whole story.